Imagine for a second that you are handed the keys to a multi-million-dollar software platform.
Okay.
It's this incredibly powerful piece of technology,
Hmm.
right? Like powerful enough to completely revolutionize how your entire business operates.
Right, the dream scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there is a massive catch. The instruction manual it comes with reads like it was written in, well, a dead language,
Yeah.
translated by a robot, and then just totally scrambled.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
We all do, right? And that gap, that massive void between brilliant, highly capable technology and actual, human understanding, that is where billions of dollars in revenue are just lost every single year.
It really is. I mean, it is the defining bottleneck of the modern information age. We have never had more access to data, to features and capabilities, yet we have honestly never been more overwhelmed by them.
Yeah.
The bottleneck isn't the technology anymore, The bottleneck is human cognitive load.
Absolutely. And as a learner who probably spends half their day sifting through complex reports or massive Slack threads and strategic proposals, you know exactly what that cognitive friction feels like.
Oh, for sure.
Because finding information is easy. But finding information that is beautifully written, incredibly clear, and actually motivates you to take strategic action, that feels like almost impossible these days.
Which is exactly why today we are looking at the playbook of someone who has spent 2.5 decades solving this precise problem.
Right. Today's deep dive is fully focused on the 25-plus-year portfolio of Kirsten Alexander. She is this really fascinating professional who operates as a conversation architect and a narrative engineer.
Those are great titles.
They really are. And we have been going through this massive stack of her career materials, her CVs, project portfolios, these highly detailed campaign case studies. And our mission today is to essentially deconstruct her methodology.
Right, to see how she actually does it.
Exactly. We want to know exactly how she takes incredibly dense, chaotic information and translates it into clear, conversion-driven human narratives.
And we really should establish the stakes here for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you are managing teams or strategies for, say, a remote tech company or a global brand or even a highly complex B2B environment, especially if you are working across the UK, EU, and African time zones like she does, you're operating in a totally saturated market.
Oh, absolutely saturated.
Your buyers are just drowning in feature lists. And in that environment, the ultimate competitive advantage isn't adding another feature, it is clarity.
Clarity, yes.
So we were going to unpack the exact blueprint of a professional who has really mastered this art of clarity on a global scale.
Okay, let's unpack this, because her work in the SaaS and technical space is where this whole narrative engineering concept really gets put to the ultimate test, I think.
Oh, totally.
Let's look at the actual mechanics of how she simplifies the complex.
Yeah.
There is this one case study in her portfolio for a company called Tilt, which provides a cloud suite for customer communication management software.
Right, which is a topic that is notoriously dense.
Yeah.
Customer communication management, or CCM, it usually involves integrating all these multiple legacy databases, managing strict compliance, and just totally restructuring how a company talks to its users. It is highly, highly technical.
Right. But I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Okay, lay it on you.
Usually when a CTO or like an IT director is buying software like this, they want the technical specs, don't they? They want the jargon.
Sure.
Standard marketing for this kind of software leans heavily into phrases like composable architecture and omni-channel orchestration algorithms. Doesn't stripping all that away risk alienating the highly technical buyer who really needs to know the system is robust?
Well, that is a super common misconception, and it's honestly where her psychological approach really shines through.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes, technical buyers need to know the software works, but you have to remember they are still human beings driven by a risk aversion.
Right.
When an IT director hears new composable architecture, their brain immediately goes to the risk, the potential downtime, the absolute nightmare of having to rip out all their legacy systems to install it.
Oh, wow. So the jargon actually triggers like a threat response.
Precisely. It creates massive friction. So instead of drowning the user in tech speak, Kirsten translated the concept of composable architecture into something entirely non-threatening.
What did she say?
She wrote that the software is modular technology that snaps perfectly into your current systems like building blocks, rather than replacing your entire IT infrastructure.
Oh, man. That is such a subtle but massive shift.
It is, right? She isn't removing the functionality at all. She is removing the psychological barrier to the sale. By comparing complex architecture to building blocks that just snap into current systems, she instantly neutralizes the buyer's fear of a massive system overhaul. She connects the product's logic directly to human confidence because she deeply understands that complexity kills conversion.
It's like standard tech marketing makes the customer translate a foreign language while simultaneously trying to defuse a bomb.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
They have to figure out what you're saying while constantly worrying about the huge risk of getting it wrong.
Exactly.
But what Kirsten does is she diffuses the bomb for them and just hands them the clear instructions. And she applied that exact same friction-reducing mechanism to another major project in her portfolio retail lab by ND Tech.
Which arguably presented an even harder challenge.
Right. ND Tech was an architectural software company, so their software was inherently B2B, built strictly for experts. But Kirsten was brought in to pivot this highly complex tech into a consumer-facing retail environment.
Right, and retail software is a completely different beast.
Totally. You are designing for an engineer sitting in a quiet, air-conditioned office. You're designing for a tired salesperson dealing with an impatient customer on a loud, busy shop floor.
Yes, exactly.
So Kirsten builds the brand architecture for this entirely new division, Retail Lab. And she creates these really intuitive product names like Sales Guide and Data Genie. But what I found really interesting in the sources is how she actually arrived at those concepts.
Right, she didn't just guess.
No, she didn't just brainstorm clever copy in a vacuum. She really dug into the data and identified the actual human friction points in retail.
Specifically, the massive staff turnover and the incredibly high cart abandonment rates that are driven by what the industry calls dirty data.
Wait, dirty data. For the listeners who might not know, what exactly is that?
So dirty data means things like incomplete product specs, confusing pricing, or incompatible items listed in the system. So if a customer asks a brand new employee if a specific cable works with a specific monitor and the system is just full of dirty data, the employee freezes. They don't know.
And then the customer gets frustrated and just walks out.
Exactly. And that is exactly where the narrative engineering comes in. Instead of selling a software that, organizes your database, she framed the technology as guided selling logic.
Oh, wow. That reframing changes the entire value proposition.
Completely changes it. She positioned the tech as a tool that captures the knowledge of your absolute best salesperson and just embeds it directly into the system.
That's brilliant.
It turns every new, totally inexperienced hire into an instant expert. By framing it as guided selling logic, she shifts the narrative away from the software itself and focuses entirely on the human outcome, which is staff confidence and customer clarity.
It makes complete sense in a digital environment, where you control the code. But it raises a huge question for me.
What's that?
Well, if she can engineer a seamless, highly controlled digital journey for software users, how does this whole architect mindset translate to the physical world? Because you cannot code human beings. Yet she spent years as the lead strategist, general manager of projects, and head of HR for this massive social impact agency called EmpowerWorks.
Yeah, and this is where we see her operational mechanics scale up dramatically. At EmpowerWorks, she was essentially orchestrating human ecosystems.
Right.
Let's look at the Empower Youth platform. When she took it over, it was this single-day hybrid event with about 500 attendees. But through her integrated strategy, she scaled that into a massive national platform.
The numbers in the case study are actually wild. She scaled to 4,000 national attendees operating across 8 simultaneous stages.
Yeah, 8 stages. And to achieve that, she had to run a highly sophisticated, multi-layered communications strategy.
I can imagine.
She had to speak authentically to unemployed youth using very relatable, localized vernacular on platforms like Facebook, while simultaneously targeting these big corporate sponsors on LinkedIn using highly polished, data-driven return on investment messaging.
That requires some serious tonal agility.
It really does.
But it gets even more complex with the Empower Entrepreneurs Funding Summit, which she built entirely from scratch. She conceptualized this event with 9 simultaneous theme stages. 9.
Yep.
Specifically designed to demystify different business funding models. 9 stages running at the exact same time.
It's a huge undertaking.
She researched the ecosystems, developed the themes, briefed the speakers, and she generated over 60 million Rand in PR value within just 5 months.
Incredible.
And on top of that, she established platforms like Empowerment, specifically designed to tackle deeply rooted social issues like toxic masculinity through structured dialogue.
Right.
But wait, coming from an editorial and writing background, How does she prevent an event with 9 simultaneous stages from just devolving into pure logistical chaos?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to conferences with only 2 stages that completely fell apart because the speakers went off script or the themes
We've
clashed.
all been to those. But it all goes back to her methodology as a conversation architect.
Okay, how so?
Well, a traditional event planner focuses heavily on the logistics, right? The lighting, the catering, making sure the microphones actually work. Kirsten focuses on the narrative through line. She writes in her portfolio that she works backward from the desired outcome.
Meaning she starts with the end goal and retrofits the content.
Exactly. Before anyone even steps foot on a stage, she asks, when the audience leaves this room, what should they believe? What should
Wow.
they feel? And critically, what should they actually do next?
Right.
Only after answering those specific questions does she begin writing the architecture. She designs highly detailed moderator guides, speaker briefings, and teleprompter scripts.
Wow.
She ensures that an event isn't just a collection of random, disconnected people talking at an audience. She engineers it so that hundreds of independent speakers across 9 stages are essentially delivering one unified, highly strategic conversation.
That's fascinating. She is treating a live event with the exact same rigorous structural architecture she applies to a piece of SaaS technology. Like every speaker is a module snapping into a larger system.
That's a perfect way to conceptualize it, actually. However, it's one thing to orchestrate a conversation when your audience wants to be there, like eager young entrepreneurs looking for funding.
Sure.
It requires an entirely different level of mastery to communicate when the audience is highly distrustful, completely apathetic, or quite literally in the middle of a global crisis.
Right. Which perfectly brings us to her high-stakes public campaigns and crisis communications. And just to frame this for you listening, when we look at these massive government and public entity campaigns, our focus here is strictly on the mechanics of the communication.
Right, the strategy itself.
Exactly. We are looking at the data, the syntax, and the strategy used to drive engagement, remaining totally impartial regarding the political or bureaucratic entities involved. We just want to know how you get a cynical public to actually listen.
Because the friction in those environments is just monumental. Take the Fluffy P housing subsidy, for example. This was a government finance-linked individual subsidy program designed to help citizens buy homes, but applications were falling drastically below the national targets.
I mean, I can guess why. The name FLISP sounds like a respiratory infection, not a pathway to home ownership.
Right. It's terrible. The language was incredibly dense and policy-heavy. Bureaucracies often fail at marketing because they market the policy itself, not the actual human benefit of the policy.
So true.
So Kirsten came in and applied that exact same sauce mindset to this government program. She completely rebranded FLISP to First Home Finance.
Oh, brilliant. Which instantly tells the user what the product is and why they should actually care.
Precisely. And then she launched this massive multilingual national awareness campaign spanning community radio, digital platforms, and on-the-ground activations, which drastically increased national awareness and uptake.
And she pulled off a really similar pivot for Samro, right? A major music rights organization, during their 60th anniversary.
She did.
They were facing serious negative sentiment from musicians over royalty payouts. The environment was incredibly tense, but instead of putting out defensive corporate press releases like most places do, she completely flipped the script.
Right.
She designed a campaign called Then, Now, Next and used digital storytelling and highly orchestrated influencer partnerships to just rebuild trust from the ground up.
Yeah, but perhaps the most high-stakes example of her narrative engineering is the SANAC campaign during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
This was a critical public health crisis. During the peak of the lockdowns, HIV testing and treatment dropped dangerously low. People couldn't, or simply wouldn't, go to clinics because the entire global narrative was just consumed by COVID.
I mean, how do you even break through that level of global noise?
By engineering a campaign that meets the public exactly where their attention currently is, she designed a fully digital, viral HIV awareness campaign under the hashtag #Cover247.
And the results in her portfolio are just staggering.
Yeah.
27 million hits and a 67.6 million rand return on investment in just 3 months.
It's unbelievable.
She managed to keep a critical, life-saving health conversation alive when the entire world was totally distracted.
Yeah.
And she tackled that kind of public apathy again with the Tata Road Safety campaign, didn't she?
She did, yeah.
She reached 6.5 million people by actively avoiding what researchers call fear fatigue.
Right.
Let's actually dig into that for a second. What exactly is fear fatigue in this context? Because usually road safety campaigns rely heavily on showing horrific car crashes to scare people into driving safely.
Right, and the data shows that tactic eventually just stops working.
Really?
Yeah, when you bombard a population with graphic, terrifying imagery over and over, their brains naturally tune it out to protect their own mental health. That is fear fatigue. If you show a driver a fatal crash, they literally just look away.
Oh, wow.
So Kirsten engineered the Tata campaign to avoid that trap entirely. She focused instead on positive, action-oriented messaging. She changed the narrative from driving dangerously will kill you to empowering the driver to take positive control of their environment.
It's incredibly difficult to change public behavior at that massive scale. I have to wonder, though, when she is dealing with heavily bureaucratic environments, with all the red tape and compliance officers involved, how does she manage to maintain this compelling human voice?
It's a great question.
Like, why doesn't her copy just get watered down into boring committee speak?
Because she utilizes a methodology known as evidence-to-action synthesis.
Okay, what's that?
Well, bureaucracies produce mountains of monitoring and evaluation data, right?
Right.
Dense technical reports that prove every tiny metric of what they are doing. Most communicators get bogged down trying to explain all that data.
Right.
Kirsten's specific skill is looking at that mountain of evidence, extracting the single human element that the public actually cares about, and building the narrative around that one element. She doesn't let the data dictate the story. She uses the data to prove the story. She translates dense evidence into immediate human action.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting for me. Because to produce this volume of high-stakes work, from national summits with 9 stages to SaaS rebranding to viral public health campaigns, you can't just be a good writer. You must have an incredibly rigorous operational engine behind you.
Oh, you absolutely do. You don't output this scale of quality without a serious system in place. When you look under the hood of her career, you realize she brings 25 years of hardcore editorial pedagogy to the table.
Right.
She has served as a managing editor for major national titles.
Like Black Magazine, which she completely repositioned. She took it from a standard mass-market lifestyle publication and totally transformed it into a premium digest-style product.
Yeah.
She was overseeing the art direction, the visual identity, the print production, literally everything.
She also managed health intelligence and planning and building magazines. And in those roles, she specialized in translating highly technical medical data and complex architectural concepts into engaging content for everyday consumers.
And she is a prolific author in her own right, too.
Very much so.
She has authored over 16 technical books on architecture and construction, including a best-selling book called Made of Africa. But the detail that really stands out to me in all these sources is that she has ghostwritten more than 5 C-suite memoirs and leadership books.
Yeah, ghostwriting is fascinating.
Ghostwriting is a bizarre psychological exercise, right? You have to completely kill your own ego and disappear into someone else's rhythm, their specific vocabulary, their worldview.
Which is an incredibly rare skill set. But if you think about it, isn't that the exact same underlying skill required to manage modern AI-assisted workflows?
Oh, that is a brilliant connection.
Yeah.
In her portfolio, she explicitly outlines her use of modern AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and NotebookLM. She uses them to accelerate her research, generate structural ideas, and even craft highly complex RFP bids for huge enterprise clients.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, though,
Yeah.
she maintains strict, human-powered editorial governance over that AI output.
Yes, that's key.
She isn't letting the AI drive the car. She is using it as a high-powered engine while she steers. Taking raw, generic AI-generated text and meticulously editing it so that it sounds authentically, persuasively human requires the exact same psychological empathy as ghostwriting a CEO's memoir.
It really does.
Yeah.
You are taking something robotic or detached and injecting a human soul into it. And she manages all of this while operating entirely remotely.
Right.
The sources highlight her mastery of the modern tech stack, HubSpot, Notion, Asana, Slack, allowing her to manage distributed teams across the UK, EU, and African time zones completely seamlessly.
I want to point out one final detail from her CV that I think ties this entire deep dive together.
Oh, let's hear it.
Right alongside her marketing qualifications, she lists a diploma in counseling psychology.
A counseling psychology diploma.
Yeah.
Wow. That feels like the skeleton key to her entire methodology.
It absolutely is. A background in counseling psychology trains you to listen deeply, to identify underlying anxieties, and to fundamentally understand human motivation.
That makes perfect sense.
Whether she is interviewing a defensive CEO for a memoir, or auditing an AI prompt to make it sound more empathetic, or writing a high-value RFP bid to convince a CTO to buy new software, she is actively applying psychological principles to communication.
Yeah.
She understands that behind every B2B software purchase, behind every single event ticket bought, behind every single public health decision, there is a human being looking for clarity, direction, and reassurance.
That is profound. It's not just marketing, it's applied psychology. And that brings us perfectly to the end of our deep dive today. Let's quickly summarize the core takeaway for you listening.
Sounds good.
If you are a global brand or a remote tech company or a high-growth startup looking for a senior writer or communication strategist, Kirsten Alexander is not just a copywriter. She is a multidisciplinary powerhouse.
Definitely.
She brings 25 years of editorial authority, rigorous remote operational management, and true narrative engineering to the table. She doesn't just hand you a pile of bricks and an instruction manual. She builds the house, furnishes it, and hands you the keys.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, especially given how rapidly our industry is evolving right now.
Okay.
We are rushing headfirst into an era where artificial intelligence can instantly generate thousands of pages of perfectly formatted data, code, and copy for virtually zero cost.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But as content becomes infinite and free, human attention becomes the ultimate scarcity. So the question you really have to ask yourself is this: will the most highly compensated, sought-after leaders of tomorrow's tech world be the coders who build the systems? Or will it be the conversation architects who actually know how to make those systems speak to the human soul?
Oh, that is the exact question every modern company needs to be asking themselves right now. If you're tired of losing revenue to cognitive friction, well, maybe it's time to hire an architect. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of narrative engineering. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.